Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. It is great to be here this morning with another episode of Opportunity Makers with this morning's guest, Dr. Shabnam Das Kar. Before we get started, I do want to start with a land acknowledgement. And so I want to acknowledge the First Peoples who, for thousands of years before us, were and still are the keepers and caretakers of this land where I now work, and in particular in Muskoka, the Chippewas of Rama, the Wada Mohawk First Nations, and Moon River Métis and Inuit. I'm dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations and Métis peoples. Wherever you are joining us from this morning, I hope that you can take a moment to acknowledge the First Peoples of your land and recognize all generations of Indigenous people and their historic connection to your place. So again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. As you are popping in, please feel free to say hello in the chat. And as I said, my guest this morning is a wonderful woman who I met probably about a year ago, Dr. Shabnam Das Kar. She is a functional medical doctor, should say medicine doctor, and a brain health coach. And I'm delighted to have her with me. She's got a fantastic journey that we are going to talk about, from being an OBGY to functional medicine and brain health. And so without further ado, welcome, Shabnam. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Libby. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, it's
Great to be here.
great to have people here. Early Monday morning, but for some who are calling in from the West Coast, who are friends of yours and mine, you've got the book behind you, Tiny Habits, and BJ and Linda Fogg. But Shabnam, thank you. I want to get into talking about brain health and what all of that means. But when you and I met and started chatting, you have such an interesting journey. You became a doctor in Mumbai. You practiced there. You moved to Canada nearly a decade ago and have really shifted focus for a number of reasons. So, start by sharing your journey.
Thank you, Libby. So, I was an OBGY in Mumbai for many years, so delivering babies, doing surgeries in private practice there. And actually, I moved into functional medicine before moving to Canada because I attended a conference and I heard about bioidentical hormones and looking at medicine from a very different perspective. So, as a functional medicine doctor, we look at the whole person rather than as an OBGY, I used to look only, I was below the belt. So only at the tubes and ovaries. But then I realized this is a very different way and much more interesting way to practice medicine, where I'm not just writing prescriptions or recommending surgeries. So I, over a period of few years, I got did a completed a fellowship from the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Thanks to technology, I could do a lot of it online.
Mhm.
And a few years ago, 2015, we moved to Canada. That was essentially because my husband was working here in oil and gas, and so it's kind of a long journey, but my final this transition to focusing on brain health actually started after I got certified as a tiny habits coach, and both
Mm.
of us are certified tiny habits
Yeah.
coaches. Because over the years I realized, so I was very excited after I moved away from OBGY and prescriptions and surgeries into functional medicine, because instead of writing prescriptions of medicines, I was recommending lifestyle changes. This is how you can change your food and sleep and movement. But
Mhm.
the missing piece was, it was still prescriptive. It's
Yes.
like, oh, you're not sleeping well, so you need to start focusing on your sleep. Poor thing, the person must be could be working in a a job where she has to stay up at night because her office is in a different time zone.
Right.
So that was the big difference when I got certified as a tiny habits coach. And when it comes to brain health, So, along with Jennifer Lee of the Tiny Habits Academy, we developed a Tiny Habits for Brain Health course.
Hmm.
And while developing the course, I realized a few things. Number one, there is so much more to brain health than we could have added to the course, because the course is as it is kind of long. But I realized that brain health is something that people don't focus on. I
Hmm.
mean, maybe how often have you gone to your family doctor, and at your annual checkup, your doctor asked you, "So, Libby, are you happy with how your brain works?"
He has never asked me that
Yeah.
question. And I think I just want to back up for a second. Is the statistic still true that even when you've had, very serious surgery and are told you must change your habits, something like 80% of people don't do anything about it, or they're back to their old habits?
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact number, whether it's 80% or not. But you and I know, whether we are talking about healthy habits, or you are talking about, other business habits.
Hmm.
Habit change can be, difficult sometimes when motivation is very high. So when it comes to, like you said, about having a surgery. So soon after they've had let us say they've had a surgery for some major heart problem or something.
Hmm.
At that point, for many people, the motivation is very high, because quite often it's like a big shock. They didn't think they were unhealthy, but maybe they had a heart attack or something. And then at that point, motivation is very high. They want to make all the changes possible.
Right.
But over a period of time, and
Yep.
it's not anyone's fault. It's the way things are. I myself struggle with, maintaining my healthy habits.
Hmm.
So that is where, I think we've got it so wrong about what, Dr. BJ Fogg calls the information action fallacy. Just
Yes,
give people more information and they'll make the changes.
exactly. Tell them that it's dangerous to live this way, and they'll change. So thanks for that clarity. And then this question that you just asked me, and we did not, rehearse this at all. I've
Oh.
never been asked how my brain was feeling. All the body parts, including some stuff up here, but never what's really inside. I've never been asked that. So why don't you start by telling us what exactly brain health is? And
Okay.
then like what I don't even know how I would respond to that question. How's your brain health? Because I don't know if I understand it fully.
Yeah, that's the so one thing is, though I'm talking about brain health today, so it's not like I have been assessing brain health in all my patients.
Hmm.
And I understand why that happens, because when you go to a doctor, it's like, let us say you go with a specific problem, and most of our time is spent in dealing with that specific problem. And then casually at the end of it, we might just say, okay, do need to look at your heart health, your brain health, your bone health. But if we don't have a system of, okay, I'll have you back here in 3 months time or 2 months time or something. So that is one thing. But everyone goes, I mean, most people go, or at least they should, go for an annual health checkup. So
Hmm.
my, this suggestion is, now we should start focusing on adding a brain health assessment with that. So
Hmm.
what do I mean by brain health? So obviously, almost well, not almost, actually, everyone I meet is concerned about, their risks for dementia in their older age.
Hmm.
And the fact is, dementias like Alzheimer's. So, Alzheimer's disease is the commonest dementia. There are several others as well.
Hmm.
And a lot of people have mixed dementias, they're not only Alzheimer's. So, I will kind of talk, about cognitive decline in, like, sort of interchangeably with dementia, with Alzheimer's, because they have a lot of similar risk factors.
Hmm.
So one thing that we know now is, number one, there are no curative treatments for dementias like Alzheimer's yet, despite billions of dollars having been spent in research. But your midlife health. So Alzheimer's starts 20 to 30 years before anyone develops any symptoms. So, as a functional medicine doctor,
Yes, I'm really paying
I'm very,
attention now. I did
I'm
that
very,
math.
I'm very keen to know what can I do by, finding out some problem early on, because that would give us like a long time to take actions.
Hmm.
And as a functional medicine doctor, I focus more on lifestyle changes. So lifestyle changes are not like taking a pill today, like you have some pain and you take a Tylenol and your pain is gone in half an hour.
Hmm.
No, it takes time, and we need to sustain them forever. It's not like today I start sleeping well and tomorrow I can forget about sleep and my brain is going to continue to function well.
Right.
So basically, when it comes to brain health, the fact is our brain health decides everything about, whether it's about our relationships, it's about how well we do at work, how uh, how well we manage our finances, and as you know, you help a lot of people in business, how what kind of business decisions they make.
Hmm.
So all those are decided by our brain. So basically, to maintain our cognitive functions, our mood, maintaining good mood,
Hmm.
these are the most important aspects of brain health. But the other sort of a situation is, because the brain decides everything about our health, or our how we function and all of that, it's very hard to be objective about our brain function. What do I mean by that? It's like my brain may not be functioning at its optimal level,
Hmm.
but I may not know about it. I'm like, I don't get that memo because it's my own brain.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So that is one of the challenges, because, and particularly Libby, you are yourself a very high performing person, and you meet a lot of high performing people who kind of like, okay, I just have to do this today whether I feel good or I don't feel good, and I'm just going to go through it, barrel through my day. So we miss those, and sometimes it's like, your friends or relatives or family will tell you, you don't seem to be the same as you were, because people know you so well. but,
Yeah.
but you feel I'm functioning okay. So
Right. Right. It's like I don't know. I guess I would have thought of that as I'm maybe woke up stressed out about something or just in a funk or not really understanding why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and I just try to push through. And most of the time I guess I manage to do that. I don't fall down. It's starting me thinking about some of what happened to a lot of people in the thick of COVID.
yes.
There were a lot of people who I it just really had to take a break. And I too, I took most of, I have had a couple of client engagements, stayed on top of all of that kind of thing. But I stopped everything else for the month of July, and really enjoyed it, and probably spent a bit too much of August in the same. Then had to hustle. But it was just, I hadn't taken a break from the beginning of the pandemic. I hadn't really taken a full on break. Even when I went south last year, I worked. So is that a sign? Is that something that we should be like? What should we be looking for and watching for?
So now, firstly, let me tell you, that is not a sign that you have some problem with your brain. That just shows that,
No, it's my genetics that are showing me.
so again, it's so if you want to look at a really good brain assessment, what it would involve is, number one, of course, your health history.
Mhm,
So the risk factors for cognitive decline down the line, and it's not even, that as we get older we should consider the problems with the brain. Even younger people,
mhm,
so younger people need to think about the brain a lot more, because now we use the brain for everything. This is the time of the brain capital. So the ideal assessment of brain function would be: number one, there would be, of course, your health history, then a whole bunch of blood tests as well. So
Mhm.
having diabetes, having even less than optimal blood glucose levels, so even being pre-diabetic, having belly fat, having hypertension which is not controlled well. I mean, I can go on and on talking about
Mhm.
all these forever. Then there are a whole lot of things which can be managed much better earlier in life, so that our brain function is maintained. Then the next part comes, that cognitive testing. Now, when
Mhm.
it comes to cognitive testing, there are a lot of tests available, but none of them are like, okay, short, just just 5 to 10 minutes of some particular assessment uh, gives you a good picture of where your brain function is today. Most of them are longer. Many of them have recently been converted into digital format, because they were still pen and paper.
Mhm.
But this is where I know that a lot of things are changing now. Many of those tests have not been validated in people younger than 50. And we
Mhm.
know that, if you're talking about Alzheimer's and dementia down the line, we have to start thinking much earlier.
Yes.
So that is one about cognitive testing. And ideally, a brain imaging would be good. But as you know, Libby, I mean, you can't just go to your doctor and say, Doctor, I want to know about my brain. Will you just do an spec scanning on my brain? That is not going to happen. And
Yeah.
again, there are a lot of reasons. Like, it becomes, imaging is more expensive. So as an individual, what can you do? Number one is, when you go to your doctor, get your blood glucose, blood pressure. If you have hypertension, that is one of the areas I'm really like focused on, because a lot of people don't have their blood pressures in control even when they are taking a medication, because
And
it's
hypertension again is,
high blood pressure.
oh, high blood pressure. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Nope.
Yeah, so
Probably have known that.
high blood pressure, diabetes, these are the commonest ones,
Right.
and both of those, once they are controlled well, it's much better. Another thing that anyone can do for themselves is, Libby, we spend a lot of time sitting nowadays because of the nature of our work. I know you and I are not sitting, but we know that the way we work now, it's like a lot of us spend a lot of time on our computers, and
Mhm.
many a time that time is spent continuous sitting. So continuous sitting is a big risk factor for cognitive decline down the line, and I won't go into the science of what happens to the muscles and all of that. So how do you interrupt continuous sitting? I mean, there are so many things you can do. You can get a sit stand desk, or you can walk around after every hour, or you set up a tiny habit recipe, like, after I finish my emails, I'm going to get up and walk. Or don't keep water on your table. That's something I suggest. And just get up to get a glass of water.
Yeah,
So
you're right. So many people recommend that you keep your water jug on the desk with you to make sure that it's sitting in front of you. But that's actually really true. Like, you should not have it there, but be prompted somehow from the world of tiny habits after you've completed something or done something. Go and get a glass of water. Yeah.
yeah, so sitting is one. Another big area is sleep.
Hmm.
So, poor quality sleep, lower sleep duration, both of those are big, negative things for the brain, for brain. And some, of course, some people have, they don't think they need to sleep. They don't prioritize sleep. But then a lot of people, particularly women, have chronic insomnia. So that's a different problem. So
Hmm.
sleep is another big one. Sleep, movement, these are the two things. And of course, food. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I know the entire food world is like, there's so much to talk about, but I'm not going to go into all of that.
Yeah.
One of the easiest things is to eat in shortened intervals of time. So instead
Hmm.
of, many of you must have heard about time restricted eating, intermittent fasting. So if we can, and Libby, I mean, I grew up in India. We didn't eat all the time, we didn't snack in the middle of the day back when we were growing up. But today it's like things are so easily available. I can just pick up, something ready to eat. Back then, a lot of the things had to be made. Like, I'm sure here, women had to bake stuff for someone to have a cookie. It was not like just available from a bag.
Right, right.
So, one of the things when it comes to food, yes, what you eat is, of course, very important. But the other thing is how many times and when. So,
Mhm.
eating later on in the evening is not really a good thing for the brain, and particularly because it would impact your sleep as well. So, it becomes like a vicious cycle. So, you
Yeah,
don't sleep well. So, the next day you are not, you don't feel well enough to exercise. So, it's okay, that's like
yeah.
gone for that day. So, movement, sleep, food, these would be kind of the foundations I'd focus on. And of course, then there are a whole lot of other areas as
Yeah.
well.
And I'd just be curious to know of anybody who has a specific question for Shabnam. Feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll try to answer that. So let me ask. I would say I'm genetically predisposed to dementia. I had great aunts who, back then it was called senility. Both of my parents, now they were quite elderly, but I just look at my husband some days and say, sorry, you're going to have to deal with it. Um, am I too late now? Because even though I'm not symptomatic, I maybe, have already started my decline.
No.
Or are there things that I can do? So that's sort of the first half of the question. Am I genetically disposed, or are there still things that I can do to prevent it? And the second half of my question would be, well, actually, let me leave it at the first half. As a coach, I should know better than to stack my questions. So just because I have a history of family, are there still things that I can do?
Okay, yes. So, number one is if you have a family history of dementia, it does not mean that that is going to be your history. Because even if you have, so again, I don't want to get too sciencey, but the ApoE4 gene is supposed to be the one that raises the risk of dementia the most.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't know whether you have the ApoE4 gene, one or both the variations, it doesn't matter, because even people who have both of the variations of the ApoE4 gene can still prevent dementia. So it doesn't have to be down the line, number
Good.
one. Number two is just having the gene is not enough. So that does not mean anyone who has the gene will have dementia down the line. Number two is dementia is not a part of normal aging. So it's, and you are not too late. So you can start focusing on the brain at any age. It doesn't matter really. And no one is too young not to focus on the brain. So Libby, you and I are, past our middle age. So we are thinking of, our older age. But I meet 20 and 30-year-olds who'll say, oh, I don't need to bother about my brain now because they will have some treatment by the time I'm old enough to get Alzheimer's. I'm sorry to say that won't happen very
Yeah,
likely.
or a pill to end it all.
Yeah.
More likely, but
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about that. So it's not too late. So, um, I don't think I'm actually going to the doctor for my long overdue physical tomorrow, because of
Okay.
COVID. Other than a phone call, I'm actually going for in person. And um, I'm, dare I ask, what about my brain? And what
Oh,
what are you what do you recommend? I mean, I'm in Ontario, you're in Alberta. I don't know
yeah.
what your health system is. OHIP, barely lets me, I like I can have a conversation on a yearly basis, but we're really not entitled to the yearly checkups anymore
Oh,
in
really?
Ontario. Yeah,
Oh,
it's like I mean, you can pay for anything, but yeah. So, and I might be wrong, but
yeah. So the thing is, Libby, unfortunately, this information that Alzheimer's is preventable and it does not have to be in anyone's, long term, a part of anyone's long term health. Prevention is not really a part of healthcare yet to the extent that we would like to see it.
Hmm.
It's more like, okay, you have a problem today, I'm going to deal with it. So,
Yeah.
going to your question of, if you ask your doctor whether you should have a brain assessment, quite often you'll be asked whether you have certain symptoms. Now,
Right.
by the time someone develops memory problems, mood issues, in as a functional medicine doctor, I would say that is late. Let us start finding out things early.
Right.
So again, it would depend on your
Yeah.
doctor. There are some who are aware of all of this, so they may say, okay, yeah, let's get some labs done.
Right.
But I won't say that everyone, it's not like let's say how you get your blood pressure checked every time you visit your doctor. A
Right.
brain check would not be a part like that
No.
yet.
Okay. So I can't believe that we only have 4 minutes left.
Oh.
The other solution is to hire a brain health coach. You. So,
Thank you, Libby.
right? So, what is the work that you would then do with individuals, whether they're 20-year-olds who want to get on a healthy trajectory or anywhere up from there, who say there's still time, this is good. I'm not showing any signs. I don't think I'm showing any signs yet. What are some, like, very quickly, what are 2 or 3 things that you do when you're working with somebody as a brain health coach?
So first, like I said, all the assessments of where they are at today, their sleep, their daily movements, are they getting enough movement? What
Right.
are they eating? And any health challenges? Obviously, health challenges they have to talk to their doctor about it, because I have an online practice.
Right.
The next would be to focus on what are the lifestyle changes they would make, because lifestyle changes are not are in everyone's control. You don't
Mhm.
have to go to a doctor to, and you don't have the need the doctor to tell you you need to sleep better.
Right.
So those are the things. And again, in the tiny habits world, we always say that we ask the person, where would you like to start?
Mhm.
So depending on that, if they want to start with prioritizing protein in their food, that's a wonderful place to start. So start with that, whatever they want to do. And that is where the tiny habits for brain health course that I have.
Mhm.
And that includes, of course, as BJ and Stephanie, they do a part of the tiny habits part of the course. And then Jennifer and I talk more about the brain health part of it, and how someone can make that a part of their life. So that's a good place to go to. That's a self-paced online course.
Yeah.
Or I can also do one-on-one coaching. So those are the other things. But for anyone, I mean, you don't need someone to help you with everything. You can just start a lot of things yourself.
But if
Things
you
like
do want the accountability, if you do want the
yeah,
plan to hold yourself true, I mean, that is one of the roles that you and I both play as coaches. We do it very differently. I want to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. So
thank you.
here we are. Here is your email address, scar@drcarmd.com. You can also look up your full name, Dr. Shabnam Das Kar. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I spelled car with a C here. Bad me. It is with a
Oh, okay, that's
K.
okay.
Uh, and Brain Health Tiny Habits course. You will find your way to what Shabnam's been talking about, and it's on the Tiny Habits Academy, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yes. So, Shabnam, thank you so much for being here this morning. I can't believe how quickly a half an hour has just completely flown by. I could spend much, much more time talking with you, and for all of us, it is not too late. That is the big
No.
message that I am walking, and it is not too early. So wherever you are on your life's journey, you can look after your physical health and your brain health by doing some really simple things. And if you're looking for an accountability partner, find your way to Dr. Shabnam Das Kar and get on that path to great longevity and great health. So thank you again, and we will see each other in our Tiny Habits community.
Yes, thank you, Libby. My pleasure.
And
Wonderful.
thank you, everyone, for joining us
Thank you,
live on
everyone.
LinkedIn. And if you're watching this as a replay, thank you for tuning in.